We called the Institute the next day, and we got ourselves scheduled for a startup program.
The Sunrise program is a home-based, child-centered, parent-directed approach for autism and developmental delays. They come to a program called the Sunrise Startup, which is a one-week, 5-day seminar. And in the seminar, they're taught all the things you need to learn to go home and really begin the programs.
Reading the book, talking to them on the phone, nothing even approaches a week of intensive experience with your wife and 40 other parents of children of varying degrees of the autistic spectrum, talking about your experiences and what it would be like to conduct a program in your own home and take charge of your own program for your son.
While they're not experts on the Sunrise program, they are experts on their child. And so our role is to give them the tools so they can take their expertise and apply it.
I felt really connected. It was really exciting to be with these people. It was also amazingly emotional. The first hour is just this incredible unleashing of feelings and letting go of lots of anger and frustration and feeling like you had finally come together to the right place.
You don't feel like you're at fault. You don't feel alone. You know there's hope. And you learn that it ultimately doesn't matter how your son or daughter turns out, because their behavior is not important as what's going on inside for them and for your family. And you learn to be okay with all of that.
We came back ready to run our program, ready to get our people set up, ready to build our room, and really excited that we had a process that we could use to connect with our son.
Generally with autism, children are very much overstimulated by the environment around them. There are so many voices, colors, sounds. Just walking outside, which to us feels like a very normal and easy experience, there's sort of this onslaught of color and sound. The leaves are moving, dogs are barking, cars are driving by, children are screaming, but you may not understand all that if you're autistic. All you know is there's so many things to take in, and you can't necessarily process it all.
Oh, we've got our colors on. Everything looks red out in space.
The playroom is a Sunrise-developed space, a place that is very quiet, so there's no distractions. You don't put up posters or any colorful things on the walls.
The playroom is set up as a safe environment and as an environment that has every single thing the child hopefully would want. So that way there's no need to say no and there's no need to stop anything. So instead of having this no experience all the time, there's this environment of yes for the child.
He loved his playroom. It was his spot. He was in that playroom from the minute he woke up until the minute he went to bed for 7 straight months.
In my playroom in my old house, there was toys, games, books, art stuff. Even though I slept with Jake in another room, this was just my room, my special room.
Well, joining with Kyle early on was like joining with most kids who are autistic and you're in the Sunrise program. It is a very new experience for most adults to sit and do the same thing, sinking the Titanic over and over again with whatever thing you could get, you know?
Because the whole point of when we first started being in the room was just to join and join and join and really get connected with him in his world.
But one of the things you learn is, go ahead and just have fun with that. You're going to be here for an hour anyway. Why not have fun doing that?
Ashes, ashes, we all fall.
And you sort of move yourself into this really great place. And then you start to get a sense of how really great the place is that he's in. He's not miserable. He's okay.
Yeah. Twirl in the back, twirl in the back, twirl in the front.
Through the Sunrise program, we call repetitious behaviors isms. or self-stimulating behavior, something that would be repetitious over and over again. And somehow Kyle might have been getting some gain from it, and we would originally join him in that, and then we would build on it, and then eventually challenge through it to help create something new from it.
You're trying to do something more for the long term than the short term. Although usually in the very beginning there is almost an immediate response from the child because they're so surprised because no one ever joins them. This is what's considered the deviant behavior usually by all the adults around them, and suddenly someone who cares for them very much is doing this behavior with them.
She's sleeping when she's walking.
She sleeps when she walks. Look at how you're looking at me.
Whoa!
When you start seeing progress in the program, and you've been through joining, so there's a bond created with, in this case, Kyle, then you build on that by inviting the child into more challenging activities.
The pictures of the cars.
She does. Can I tell you something? I love when you look at me. I love those brown eyes of yours.
For example, if you can join a child and play their spinning game for a while, and then they look at you and you go, hey, thanks for looking at me, and you get eye contact, then the next thing in terms of challenging them would be to say, Kyle, would you look at me for a second? Then if you get eye contact, that's an actual higher level of thing, because he didn't just give it to you sort of voluntarily, he gave it to you upon request. And we carefully charted all these steps every day, 10 hours a day.
Hi. That was nice that you looked at me. That was very sweet.
You don't do it to get the child to stop whatever they're doing and look at you. You join so that way you build a deeper relationship and rapport over a period of time so that interacting with you and every other facilitator and human being becomes significantly more attractive for the child.
Pink? How do you make pink? Tell me. How do you make...
Red and white.
What? You are so correct. That's right. Hey, I know how to make purple. Do you know how?
Blue and red.
Oh my gosh.
I would always say, I love you, Kyle, and never expect a response. And one time I said, I love you, Kyle, and he says, I love you too, Dad. And I didn't expect that. And you could have stopped the program right there. We had a long ways to go from there, but that was pretty much worth it.
It was one of the first times that we were playing together, and we had our blankets and our sticks, and we had started to build a little game. And he was really into this game. For that, he hit me by accident with his stick. And it was one of the first times that he came over and said, oh, Mommy, okay, you okay? And I think up until that point, I believed my son didn't have a conscience, didn't care about other people. So it was one of those moments where you have to just say, I'll be right back, Kyle, because you gotta appreciate. You take a moment to appreciate how wonderful that is, that your son has actually touched you and he was concerned and caring about that he might have hurt you.
We find that the more total the immersion, the better. So because your wife and yourself and you have other children and work, you can't be in a room with your son 100 hours a week or 50 hours a week yourselves. You're going to recruit staff who you're going to train on how to play with your child in a very developmental, loving way.
I remember when we first started, we had, I think, 15 volunteers, which was fabulous. There were tons of people coming in throughout the day for 50, 55, 60 hours a week, interacting with Kyle one-on-one.
We really came together as a family to run this program. And we also had all these great people coming into our house every day who not only were going into the room with Kyle, but they would come in and say hi to Annie, and they would say hi to Jake.
Well, it was pretty cool getting to meet all the people who worked with Kyle in his room because they were really nice. Lindsay would come over early and hang out with me and Jake, and stay late. You know, she was just a friend, she became a friend of the family.
When we were playing dodgeball with our friends, we'd run, we'd be like, get in the room, and we'd run and hide in the room.
Kyle built a little community around himself. It's pretty neat.
I think in large part they helped out because they really thought they could make a difference in a little boy's life. I call them Kyle's angels.
It's not unusual for a child in the Sunrise program, when they're nearing the end of their program, meaning they're able to really interact strongly and have a lot of the social and practical skills that they need to do really well in the world, for a child to start to verbalize their desire to be done with the program.
He got this in his head probably 2/3 of the way through the program, that he wanted to be done. He wanted to graduate from his Sunrise program.
At my graduation, a lot of people who worked with me were there.
So we had a ceremony up at the Option Institute. Kyle has a mortarboard and a big, sign. Jennifer was fine. I sobbed for an hour.
I made a speech, and I can't really remember, but I remember it was a good speech, and everyone liked it.
I think the opening line to his speech was that there was an old Chinese proverb that says, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And what a beautiful way to look at Kyle and what he's accomplished.
Whoa, hey, thanks. I've never had one of these before. Wow.
It's incredible to watch him come from that place where he was so alone, so much of the time anyway, to being really fully in this world and where he can do whatever he wants to do in the world.
He knew it was towards the end of the program, and he would start to talk to me about missing me. And here I go. From a child who had the hardest time connecting with anyone, let alone himself. His personality hadn't even emerged when I first met him, to someone who said, Linz, I'm gonna really miss you. And certainly I was gonna miss him.
I think Kyle has changed the most in his ability to make friends, and he's very outgoing now. He's one of the most comfortable kids I know. Like, the other day, he wore his Admiral's hat with a quill pen sticking out of it to OC, which was crazy. I thought it was so cool.
Here's a kid who probably, where he was when we entered the program, he might not have needed institutionalization, but he wouldn't have been able to hold down employment of any meaningful sort, and he certainly wouldn't have been able to have meaningful relationships. And now this is a young person who's going to have loves and heartbreaks and good jobs and bad jobs and all the ups and downs of life that we all have.
I think looking back, the thing that's most important is that we have a relationship with our child. We have a deep, meaningful relationship. He's going to be okay. He's going to have relationships in his life. He's going to be able to take care of himself. And we are going to get to enjoy that.
Autism is just something that happens. You can't really control it, but you can just deal with it. Because once you deal with it, it's just like, it seems normal. And once you deal with it, it just seems to float away from you. Like an island breaking. Like a part of the land breaking from another part.
I see trees of green,
red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful